It's officially NFL free agency season, and there are plenty of big names ready to offer their services for 2017. We have two quarterbacks looking for a new start in Tony Romo and Colin Kaepernick, one game-changing wideout in Alshon Jeffrey, and oh yes, some guy named Adrian Peterson. On that note, for more on NFL free agency, joining us now is the insider of all insiders, one Adam Schefter.
Good morning, Molly.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us.
How you doing?
On this crazy day. I'm fantastic. I love today.
Where's Stephen A. and Max?
They are in New York.
And New York right here. Got stuff to do.
In your
got stuff
city.
to do,
They're
Adam.
big time, Adam, like you.
Adam, let's get right to it. Biggest surprise thus far in this free agent signings. What would you classify it as, sir?
Stephen A., we're in the middle of the day, and we've got a long way to go, and I think we're going to get plenty of surprises as the day goes on. But I think the fact that the New England Patriots jump into free agency, which you don't ordinarily see, and take the division rival cornerback Stephon Gilmore off the Buffalo Bills, assuming there are no snags in those negotiations here this afternoon. Stephon Gilmore becomes a New England Patriot. We've got Malcolm Butler on that one-year deal that he has not signed yet, and our Diana Rossini has mentioned the fact that the Patriots could entertain an offer of trading Malcolm Butler to New Orleans for Brandon Cooks, and so the Patriots are wheeling and dealing. Keep in mind, they've already traded a fourth-round pick for Dwayne Allen, the tight end, and a sixth-round pick. They have gone out here and acquired Stephon Gilmore. They have put Malcolm Butler in play. And so the team that's coming off a Super Bowl victory is acting as if they've never won a Super Bowl, and they're making aggressive bold moves.
Active in the draft, typically the Patriots. I'm hearing that you have some breaking news regarding Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon, as expected, is going to sign with the Chicago Bears, barring any setbacks. Here's the number, Stephen A. and Max. You tell me what you think of this deal. It's going to be for $15 million a year, 3 years, $45 million, $19 million guaranteed to join the Chicago Bears. Mike Glennon will go in there and be the Bears starting quarterback. A big deal for Glennon. He was wanted back in Tampa, was the top free agent quarterback available on the open market. And when I mean available, that means Patriots not trading Garoppolo, Redskins not planning to trade Kirk Cousins. So this is the best you could do right now. The Bears are going to go out and land that top quarterback on the market.
Adam, does that mean, as John Elway said last year when he was negotiating with Osweiler, look, there should be a middle class of quarterbacks? Does this contract represent Mike Glennon joining the middle class of quarterbacks?
I guess, Max, but here's the deal. If you're starting in the NFL, even Ryan Fitzpatrick came in last year to the Jets and made over $12 million per year. So they're paying Mike Glennon, who's a free quarterback, an unrestricted free agent on the open market where teams don't have quarterbacks, $15 million a year, 19 guaranteed. So if Mike Glennon flames out in Chicago, they can move on to the next guy without much damage. There's not a lot of risk. They tie up the guy they want. Look, Tampa Bay wanted Mike Glennon back in Tampa, which tells you something. I think that speaks to his level of abilities and talent, and he's going to wind up in Chicago on that big money deal here.
What are you hearing, Adam, the issue is with Tony Romo in terms of trying to make a decision? Is it really about Denver or Houston, and that's up in the air, or is he looking at other possibilities as likely participants?
I think he's looking at other possibilities as well. Now, look, I think we all agree Denver and Houston are the two primary landing spots, the two obvious ones. But my understanding is don't be surprised when Tony Romo takes visits to other places not named Denver and Houston. And so here's the question that every team's going to have to ask itself in free agency. When you look at your starting quarterback, whether it's Jacksonville or Minnesota or you pick the team, would we rather have Tony Romo as our starting quarterback, or would we rather have the guy we have in place now? And every team around the league is going to have to ask that question. I can tell you New England's going to rather have Tom Brady. Pittsburgh's going to rather have Ben Roethlisberger. Green Bay's going to rather have Aaron Rodgers. But ask yourself that question with every other franchise, and you come to your own conclusion about whether you'd rather have a quarterback there or whether you'd have Tony Romo.
Adam, we haven't heard much about Adrian Peterson. What are you hearing about his whereabouts? Could he end up back in Minnesota?
Well, Molly, the reason that you don't hear a lot about it is because the running back market is deflated some. And teams are not jumping out to go sign running backs because there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And
good ones in the draft.
And there are great ones in the draft. And so teams know that they don't have to be in a rush. Listen, Adrian Peterson is one of the greatest players in NFL history. So he's going to get a lot of attention. We're going to replay his highlights, and we're going to see the great runs like this one right here. But the fact of the matter is, there's more attention on him from the public than there is from actual teams themselves. Now, there's been some talk that maybe the Raiders will be interested, maybe Seattle will be interested. We'll see whether or not that happens. But again, I think there's a lot more interest on our part than the team's part right now.
And you said, Adam, that's largely because there are no, Glennon's markets there. Adrian Peterson's is not just because of the increased importance on the quarterback and decreased on the running back, but because in this draft, the view is that there are ready-to-go running backs and not quarterbacks. That's also cooling Peterson's market?
Well, here's the deal, Max. If you look at it, Bill Polian was on Insiders yesterday, and he said he thought Adrian Peterson was a veteran minimum salaried running back. And I couldn't believe when he said that, because you're talking about Adrian Peterson. But the fact of the matter is, think about how often teams have paid running backs. Now think about how often teams have paid 32-year-old running backs. Now think about how often teams have paid 32-year-old running backs who averaged 2 yards a carry in their last season and didn't stay healthy. And so, again, we can continue to talk about and speculate on where Adrian Peterson's going to wind up. And he's one of the greatest players in NFL history. But we're talking about Adrian Peterson in 2017, not Adrian Peterson in 2007.
Adam, tell me this two-part question. Who is the number one running back on a free agent market? Who's that considered to be in light of what you just pointed out about Adrian Peterson, number one? And number two, what team wants a running back most?
Well, I still would want one of these running backs on my team, okay? I think you look at Adrian Peterson, despite the questions, and make him, look, he's Adrian Peterson, okay? You look at Eddie Lacy. I know that there's been some questions about his conditioning and his weight. I still would want Eddie Lacy on my football team as well. I'm just thinking of the running backs. Latavius Murray is a guy that's going to draw some interest. The Seahawks could use a running back. The Giants could use a running back. The Vikings could use a running back. The Lions could use a running back. But again, also, as we referred to, the draft, it's one of the deepest drafts in years in running backs. And you can go get a running back in the draft, 4 years, $3 million on the total contract, which might be less than you pay one of these guys for this upcoming season. So what would you rather do
Adam,
if you're a team?
Is there on a non-sexy skills position kind of way, a guy out there with a really hot market, some tackle or guard or position that we don't normally pay as much attention to, that teams are very hot for right now?
Well, I'll tell you one that's kind of on the cutting edge right here, Max. Basically, Kevin Zeitler, the Bengals offensive line. The Bengals already have lost Andrew Whitworth to the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to lose Kevin Zeitler too. And the question is, where are they going to lose him to? And the Cleveland Browns are making a real strong push with all the cap room that they have to sign Kevin Zeitler, and the numbers are going to be through the moon on Kevin Zeitler when that deal comes in. And so that, to me, is a guy that people aren't talking about Kevin Zeitler, but he may have one of the richest contracts in this free agent class, a huge deal that's going to be coming down the pike at some point today. And I think Kevin Zeitler is in play in Cleveland amongst other places right now.
A lot of teams could
Zeitler
use
gets
help on
paid,
their line.
Adrian Peterson doesn't. Yeah.
We'll see.
Offensive line, we know how important that
We'll
is.
see.
Adam, before we let you go, Darrelle Revis, obviously one of the best of his position in the time, in the back nine of his career now. Is there much interest for him?
I'm told that there is interest, but here's the thing. The Jets owe him $6 million for this season, which is offset. So you have to find a team out there that's willing to pay him, let's just say, if we're going to have a standard contract, $7 million for Darrelle Revis to make $1 million this year because the Jets are paying him $6 million.
Yeah.
So if they want to pay him $7 million, Jets pay $6 million, Team X plays the additional $1 million. Now, it's up to him, and nobody's been better at this, to think creatively outside the box. And I've seen players do this in the past. Andre Johnson last year comes to mind where there was offset. And so what he did was he came up with a basic salary for last year and then included guaranteed money the following year. So if Darrelle Revis is going to think outside the box, which he's been an incredibly shrewd businessman when it comes to NFL business negotiations, what you do is you come up with a 2-year deal, you pay yourself $1 million this year, and then you guarantee whatever you think you're willing to pay for next year. Now, the interest, I'm told, there's some divided opinions, to say the least. And again, that's one of those names that's bigger to us than it is to teams right now.
Your gut he'll play next year?
Yeah, I think he plays
Okay.
next year. I do think he plays next
A
year.
wealth of knowledge as always. Go check your phones. Thank you so much for all the updates. Follow Adam on Twitter. And of course, make sure to catch him on part of our free agency special. That's starting at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can see it also streaming live on the Watch ESPN.